Mayuresh Joshi as well joins in on the show right now. Mayuresh, hi, afternoon. What's the call on this gradual decline that one is seeing within the mid and small caps specifically?
Afternoon, Aisha. No, I think a little bit more specific. One needs to be specifically in the broader markets. They have run up quite significantly. And therefore, I think the markets will now track two things. One, I think within the sphere of the sector that they're operating out of, what is the earnings trajectory expected for the sector as a whole? And within that, the large cap names and the mid cap names, how are they expected to fare? Obviously, valuations a tad bit on the higher side. They are moving and trading above key pivot levels quite significantly for a large part of this space. And therefore, I think one needs to be really a little bit more selective when it comes to the extreme broader end of the market, the small cap space in particular. Therefore, I think the focus areas that we probably have at Marketsmithindia are either large cap or large cap, which are largely largish mid caps sort of names that we are probably looking at this juncture.
Okay, point taken. So that's a view on some of these select names, but just taking stock of some other buzzers as well. Godfrey Phillips is up a good 10%. KC, Geo, Narayana Healthcare, Kalpataru. These are the stocks which are firing away, though Tata Chemicals continue to reel under pressure. You also have Newland Labs as well as Greenlam Industries joining that list, as well as Aegis Logistics, Phillips Carbon. These are some of the other names in the red. But just taking stock of some of the heavyweights as well, because Indigo, of course, despite that large block deal, has managed to hold its head above the water quite smartly. And NMDC, of course, is reacting to the iron ore prices coming down. SAIL is also down in the trading session, and a couple of other metal names as well, like Hindustan Copper. Naresh, what's the view on metals as a pack?
So metals as a pack selectively still looks interesting. We saw a breakout move in a lot of them. We are seeing a correction today post a little crack on iron ore prices, but structurally the trend remains positive. Starting off with NMDC, which has been a strong trend, so closer to 215 to 220, 25 is a good zone of support. So that is where it could find a pause. Tata Steel, the longer term structure, it ended up making highs above the 2021 highs. So till the time it holds 140, the structure remains positive. Vedanta is interesting if it can cross above that 285 to 90 mark, which has been a high for the last 2 years. So overall, at current levels, it's a accumulate on metals as such.
But the OMCs as well are up too, although BPCL started off with a positive dash earlier today. But the fact that the Prime Minister over the weekend announced an LPG price cut of about 100 rupees per cylinder, it could be incrementally negative for OMCs. Of course, OMCs have had quite a field day in the last 15 odd days or so. BPCL as well is giving up its morning gains, and now it's ebbing off a little bit. But a couple of brokerages as well which have come out with their notes. Morgan Stanley saying that in the near term, the conversations with investors does point to skepticism of gasoline, diesel fuel prices cuts ahead, also of elections. On the positive side, though, they're saying that, the oil minister himself, in fact, we should bring up that soundbite as well of Hardeep Singh Puri, categorically saying that there could be no price cut anytime soon. Fuel price cut can be looked only if crude prices will be under control, which doesn't seem like a possibility just yet. So that's pretty much how the OMCs are panning out in trade. In fact, let's hear out what the minister had to say exactly.
अंतर्राष्ट्रीय महिला दिवस पर उन्होंने एक और डिसीजन कन्वे किया कि एलपीजी सिलेंडर का दाम जो है वो 100 रुपए और कम किया जाएगा. When the international price went up, we allowed the price domestically only to go up by 70%. In other words, the rest of it was absorbed. इसका नतीजा क्या हुआ? इसका नतीजा ये हुआ कि जो हमारी कंपनीज हैं उन्होंने घाटा लिया. कितना घाटा? उनका रिपोर्टेड लॉस इज 28,000 करोड़ और हमें उस 28,000 करोड़ में से शायद 22,000 करोड़ we had to reimburse them because we want to keep our companies afloat. And the companies ultimately are answerable to their shareholders. Good news is कि बढ़े ही नहीं. International situation became problematic and everywhere the prices went up. हमारे यहाँ बढ़े ही नहीं. तो मैं यही कह रहा हूँ कि आप बाहर की जो स्थिति को स्टेबल रखिए. ऑयल प्राइसेस अगर वैसे ही रहें That's something that can be looked at as you go along. But if you have, say, an attack taking place somewhere and insurance and freight rates go up, the pricing of gas and energy pricing, and how today you have one of the lowest prices of all these energy projects, and whereas prices the world over are going up, here they are stable or coming down.
Okay, so that's about the OMCs, but the hospital stocks, as we have been pointing out, are actually doing quite okay. In fact, Apollo Hospitals is the top contributor to the index right now because the rest of the segments are tumbling away. Clearly, the market is crumbling as we speak because the overall Nifty is now at the level of around 22,322, so at the lowest point of the trading session, and that's the only pocket, and maybe IT a bit, which is supporting the sentiment right now. What's your view, Mayuresh, on defensives like IT and Pharma and the top bets within those two categories?
So afternoon, Anisha. No, I think we are remaining very selective in both these spaces as well. Obviously, I think within the IT space, mid-cap IT has performed exceedingly well. The commentaries have been very, very supportive, whether it be on the revenue growth front, both in constant currency or dollar terms, or whether it comes to margins. So they're expecting margins to probably sustain over the next few quarters as well, with very decent orders still expected to continue, even in lieu of lower discretionary spending happening both in the US and the European zone. Having said that, I think we will be keeping our eyes open for any pullback that probably happens on stocks like Persistent as an example, Coforge as an example within the mid-cap IT space. Large-cap IT largely had delivered better set of numbers than what analysts were probably expecting. And to that extent, the multi-million dollar deals that one really expects to probably slow down a tad bit, that might be a reality for large-cap IT companies. And they might struggle for the next 2 quarters related to that. I think a base case scenario works out to be a very conscious recovery happening as the rate cut scenario start happening in the US, which is in the second part of the financial year. So being very, very selective within the mid-cap IT space. When it comes to pharma, as a defensive pack, again, I think the under ownership a couple of quarters back was very, very stark. The expectations, again, in terms of earnings being relatively stable, because a lot more launches, specifically in niche categories, paraforce, are expected to come through for a few companies. Sun Pharma has a strong pipeline on that. Oro Pharma has a strong pipeline, and so do Dr. Reddy's and Cipla. So within this space, again, I think we continue holding on to stocks like a Sun and a Cipla in our global portfolios. But within the mid-cap names, stocks like Natco and Torrent Pharma should probably kept on your radar on any kind of a pullback. They have got a specialized pipeline as far as paraforce are concerned. The EBITDA margins remain extremely strong. No delinquencies as far as the plants are concerned, and to that extent, expectations of more launches coming through in the next few quarters with stability in margins, which might mean or tend to an upward tick in earnings trajectory over the next couple of years as well. So we continue holding Cipla, Dr. Reddy's, Sun Pharma in our global portfolios. Any pullbacks on Torrent and Natco can be viewed as buying opportunities.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at where the Nifty is because we're just around that 22,322 marks. In the last few minutes, there has been further pressure which has actually got built up. And I think the blame really goes to Reliance this time around because that's one of the top drags at the index right now. 25 points is what it is contributing on the downside. HDFC Bank is down 1.25%. SBI has actually managed to recover a bit from the day's lowest point. And so can be said for ICICI Bank as well, though Infosys within the entire IT pack is a bit of an underperformer because the rest of the IT names are actually holding out okay. Infosys is the only one which is in the red and materially so because TCS is up 0.5% thereabouts. In terms of the broader markets, just quickly taking stock of the big buzzers. Well, Poonawalla Fincorp 361, Force Motors, Interglobe, Rail Vikas Nigam, these are some of your top gainers. While on the losing side, it continues to be Shyam Metallics, which is down 7%, Capri Global as well as Avanti Feeds. These are some of the names which are down. But Mayuresh, in the latest, correction, if I can call it, within the small cap and mid cap space, given that they have underperformed the index by 7 to 8 percentage points in the last couple of weeks, which are the names which are coming into the buy zone? Any interesting names that you guys are recommending at this point of time?
Names, as I said, from the largest mid-cap space is what we are lacking at Marketsmithindia. One, obviously, I think within the auto ancillaries and battery makers, Any pullback on stocks like an Exide or the Amara Raja should be viewing as buying opportunities. Two things. One, I think the kind of expansion that they're doing in terms of their lithium ion capacities, which are expected over the next few quarters, that is going to drive up volumes as far as the electric mobility segment is concerned. And obviously, I think they are servicing both the OEMs and the replacement market as far as the internal combustion engines are concerned. So, to that extent, as the transition takes place towards electrical mobility, they'll be well equipped on both these fronts, both from an OEM perspective and the replacement market perspective as well, with very stable balance sheets. In spite of the expansions that are expected to happen, not excessive leverage expected to build up on the balance sheet, which means cash flow improvement will be quite significant over the next few quarters as these milestones are achieved. The second element, obviously, is a stock like Pidilite is something that we are continuing to like in markets with India. Two things. One, I think the ensuing result which took place in quarter three, underlying volume growth was quite robust at 10%, standalone margins in excess of 25 odd percent. Expectations in terms of volume growth holding up, specifically for the sealant segment, the industrial paint segment, and the construction paint segment as well, which is almost 20 odd percent. I think both these segments are expected to fire up quite significantly, with the expectations of both real estate activity expected to remain very, very robust, repainting demand coming back very, very strongly. And therefore, the volume stroke value growth should be quite significant in the next few quarters. Input costs have come off, and therefore the margins should be relatively stable, with more products selectively in a calibrated manner expected to get launched in the next few quarters and years as well. So I think Pidilite and battery makers is something that we continue to like in markets with India.
Battery manufacturers, that's something that Naresh is betting on. But let's get in some BTST ideas as well before we wind up for the day. Kunal?
So I'll go with one buy and one sell. The first one is about REC Limited. That stock is seeing a good bounce after almost a 20% correction from 520 to 420. So reasonable bounce for the stock. Would suggest a buy with a target of 508. Stop loss could be kept at 474. And second would be a sell on JK Cement. I think fifth or sixth consecutive day of price correction to the stock. It's broken below a key short-term moving average. So would suggest a sell with a target of 4,050. And stop loss could be kept at 4280.
Right. Naresh, what about your BTST ideas?
So first is the buy on Apollo Hospitals, which has corrected 10% from the top and making a recovery trade today. Stop loss at 61.50, target price of 62.50. Second is the buy on Tech Mahindra, which is at a support level and recovering from those levels. Stop loss at 12.80, target price of 13.20.
Okay, let's now begin winding up for the day.